Hey, Chirag, how's it going, buddy?
Hey, Sune, good man. How's it going? How's your week?
It was a good week. I'm always looking forward to our discussion here, and I know we always like text and exchange emails back and forth about stuff that we're reading and like, hey, we should talk about this and talk about that. And I was super excited about the article that you shared with me where it reported 14% of Americans are getting their news from TikTok, and we're both like, yeah, is that's not good. Like that's
Yeah, no, I sent that to you. Yeah, man, I sent that. I saw that in the New York Times, the daily briefing the other day, and the whole the main part of the email was about TikTok and how it's really changing our whole culture. And yeah, that part specifically, that 14% of adults, American adults, are getting that's their primary news source is TikTok is just deeply, deeply unsettling to me. And I can't put my finger on why. I mean, I do know why, but and we kind of talked about a little bit where it's just so superficial, right? Like, what are you learning in a 30-second or 1 minute TikTok? Like how what are you learning really? I mean, you're learning superficially, maybe a headline, maybe the gist of something that's happening, but you're not really understanding anything. There's no room
yeah.
for
I mean,
nuance.
we've conflated news and entertainment so deeply that I don't think I I don't think we know the difference anymore. Like society doesn't know the difference between what's news and entertainment. It's all
Yeah,
just one giant, you know, uh, uh, economy or not even economy, but like one giant product that is under the guise of educating you and giving you news, but really is just a marketing product at the end of the day. It's content that is
yeah,
built and delivered through sales and advertisers, and it's like just give the people what they want. And it's not based off of
right.
education, it's not based off of progressing thought or building a educated and informed society. It's based on, well, how do we monetize the consumers out there, and what do I do to get them to pay attention to what I have to say? And we'll come up with every single angle that we can to get your attention. And it could be pure, comedic, it could be intellectual, it could be news, if you will. And I think that's a big part of why we got here.
Right. And it's all about the algorithm, right? It's all about everything is targeted for the algorithm. So it gets, I don't want to say it, but it's like almost dumber and dumber. Like all the content, it just gets dumbed down to the point where it's all about what the algorithm will pick up and advertise or will broadcast to the audience and get the most views and
No
most
question.
clicks, right?
Yeah, there's no question.
Yeah, and I just want to say, I just want to preface this a little bit because when I texted you, I said, at the risk of us becoming two old men yelling at the sky, and so I just want to say that, like, I don't want to be that, I consider myself an open-minded person. I'm always into new technology, but I think this is different. There's something inherently different about how TikTok and social media is changing our culture. That's different than someone in the 50s getting so upset about Elvis, right? Like, I feel like it's different because it's changing how we think and how we interact with each other and how we get our news. It's just
No,
so different.
no, I,
And
I,
do you
I
agree?
totally agree, man. I think about the choices we make as parents because I feel like that is what reflects our beliefs. Because when it comes to making decisions, those have to be made when a child presents you with the scenario and you have to make a decision about, well, how much screen time should I give my kid, or what app should I allow my kids to interact with, and what do I consider appropriate and acceptable in terms of time and and actual products that they use. And that I think I look back on and I say, same thing like you. I want them to use technology. I want them to embrace the evolving, I don't know, I keep coming back to products, but things that they're going to interact with. Like
Yeah.
that's just life. That happens, it progresses, and there's only so much you can fight and delay, I guess, their exposure to these, social media products, right? And the goal would be to give them a healthy relationship with it. And as they embrace that and have hopefully a healthy relationship with it, we give them tools to analyze and question whether it is a healthy relationship, right? And question whether this is the best use of their time to watch TikTok videos. And they've built the algorithm in such a brilliant way. And again, not to sound like an old man, but like I was so curious about what my kid likes on TikTok. And it's so personal that my 13-year-old didn't even want to sit and watch his TikTok feed with me because he was embarrassed because the feed is
Wow.
customized to his interests, right? And I'm like, well, let me try to get a better understanding of my kid. And I'm like, Andrew, like, just sit down next to me. Like, let's watch your TikTok feed. And he had to, like, almost filter it and hand select which ones he was okay with he and I watching together. And again, it was the same thing as I'm watching it. I'm like, oh my God. And then the next video comes up and I'm like, oh, I want to see what happens there. Like, it is so addicting. And it's hard to fight. And it's hard if you don't have another
Right.
basis of reference to know that this is not good and not healthy. And maybe that's what we sound like, old men, because we have a frame of reference as to what it was like to spend hours on a topic and have a deep understanding of something and understand nuance and have discussions that are based in complexities of nuance that progress thought and end up hopefully, and I think in most cases, allowing us to respect and love each other despite us having differences because we realize we're just debating in the margins. We're not debating in the fundamentals, we're just debating in the margins. And that's healthy and that's fun. But if you never allow yourself to get into nuance, then you never allow yourself to realize that our baselines are pretty much the same. And I think that's part of what I get really frustrated with social media and TikTok and Twitter and Facebook because they don't leave room for a nuanced conversation. It just doesn't exist. And
Right.
that's what I feel has led to what you talked about earlier of like, is this a bad thing? Yeah, it is a bad thing. Life is nuance. Life is not 140 characters.
Yeah, completely agree. And I don't want to get it twisted. Like we did our fair share of wasting time, right? I think back in our college years, but we did a lot of that together in person, and we spent time together. We would talk about things like we wouldn't get snippets of each other or of things like we would talk deeply about things. We would spend time together, and now I think so much of our culture is online that I think we're missing that, or I think kids are missing that for sure. But even adults, to a large extent, are missing out on that, right?
No question. I mean, you think about how our lives have evolved in, let's call it, Middle Ages, right? And the amount of time that we spend physically with each other. I mean, look at us recording the podcast. We're like, we're on
Right.
camera, and this is the most you and I have spoken in years in terms of quality discussions and debates, and it's almost because of the podcast we are engaging in these types of discussions and having a ton of fun doing it. And if we didn't have this podcast, would we still be having these types of conversations and prioritizing this as something important, let alone the physical in-person interactions that, you know, we live hour and a half or, whatever, over an hour away from each other. Our other friends are in Long Island. Our other friends are in upstate New York. Like they're all, separated. And so the physical time that we spend together, like you said, is very limited and to our detriment, I think. I mean, there's not only like the conversations to your point, but just the energy that you feel physically when you hang out with friends and that love that you feel of having another human being in your orbit, in your world, is, yeah, there's nothing that can replace that. There's no digital technology that's built yet that will replace that.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's one of those things I struggle with because largely for the last even before COVID, I was being in IT, mostly working from home. And while I love the convenience of it, especially with younger kids, I struggle with that. Like I do miss being in person sometimes, being part of a team that you see on a daily basis, where you get to work and collaborate. very closely in in person, and I do miss that, honestly. Even though I'll broadcast to the world that, hey, I love working from home because it's so convenient. I don't have to, I can work in my pajamas. Yeah, all that stuff's great, but I do miss it. So much so that I've had to, in the past year. I started volunteering for the New York City chapter of the Project Management Institute, and I think part of it is because yeah, I did want to give back to the community. I've gained a lot from being a project manager and being, certified and all that kind of stuff. So I do want to give back to, younger professionals. But I think a part of me just kind of wants to be be somewhere in person and meet people in person. And I get to go to chapter events and see people in person. I get to network, and honestly, it's not even that I'm an introvert, right? Like it's not something that comes naturally to me necessarily, but it's a testament to the fact that I still miss it. Like it is still something that inherently I think everyone needs, right?
Yeah, let me ask you a question on that. When
Yeah.
you either looking back or even recently, when you look at the time that you spend working remotely versus the times that you've worked in person, had colleagues around, I mean, compare and contrast it in terms of happiness, in terms of productivity, in terms of output, like in terms of just your, your emotional state. Like what have you noticed things? Like what have you noticed?
It's hard to quantify. I mean, I'll be honest, commuting's a drain, right? So I do not really miss commuting, but I do miss the collaboration, and you know, I think you gain, like you were saying before, you gain a certain kind of energy being around people, right? So while there's a trade-off, because I think commuting does kind of take some energy out of you. I think you gain some of it back when you're in person and interacting with people, for sure. But in terms of
Yeah.
like happiness, I don't know. And it's also, the other part of it is different stages of life, right? Like I can see myself in my 20s, I loved being in an office, right? And I don't think back in the late 90s, early 2000s, that wasn't, working from home wasn't really an option. That was not part of the corporate culture in New York, right? Or in our
Hmm.
area. So it wasn't really an option, but I did enjoy it because when you're young, you want to be around people, you want to go out after work for happy hour, like that's just part of being young, and in my case, it being working in New York City, it was a lot of fun. Like I made so many lifelong friends in my 20s, being working in New York, and meeting people at work and going out. Like you get to know people intimately that way. So it's different. And then now I'm middle age, yeah, and I have younger kids, so it is convenient for me to be able to see my kids every day. Drop them off at school, pick them up, spend time with them, work on them with their home. I can take breaks from work and spend time with them. So it's hard to say, oh, that's all bad, because no, that's great. I really enjoy that, and I don't take that for granted at all. But a small part of me does miss, like I said, does miss being in person, being part of a team, and collaborating in person with people.
Yeah. Uh, Similar experience from my side of things. I think I do. For me, the energy in person is palpable. My mood is directly reflected of being more positive, of being happier. I just smile more because I feel like if I'm in a room with other people, I want to bring them joy and happiness, and so I smile more. And one of the weird things that I found myself doing, and maybe it's because of being fully remote in my job, I talk to like random people like that I just see now, and I just say hi, I say hello, I just like ask them how they're doing. Like my family always gets embarrassed, like if we go out to eat, like I'll talk to the servers, just like be friendly, and like compliment people more. And I'm getting more out of putting positive vibes out in the world just from myself. And maybe it's because I miss and doing that around people in the office. maybe. But
Yeah.
I did notice a change in productivity for myself. I mean, I do notice that, we have a lot of good infrastructure because the whole company is remote. And so I do feel like there's, the hours I work are certainly more, but I think the intensity of the work is diluted a bit, because when you're co-located with your peers and you're in a room together and you're getting these discussions and you're getting shit done and you're able to make, more timely decisions because you're in a room together. You don't have to wait, or hey, am I interrupting you via Teams chat? Like, it's hard to replicate in-person interactions even in a fully remote organizational structure. um, and I think you need it. I think you need
Yeah.
it. That's the only way you build relationships. It's, and when you build relationships, you feel a higher sense of accountability. And then when you need to call in favors and you need to say, hey, like, we've got this massive deadline and we got to all just kind of chip in and all hands on deck, like, you have that relationship that is going to push people to, put in that little extra effort and drive towards victory, because you all feel like you're all in this together, which again is hard to do if you haven't been in person.
Yeah, yeah, agreed. And yeah, I think you made a great point that the fact that you smile more in the office because you're just around people. I think that's great, and that's probably true. When I see people as well, because you do, yeah, you see people, you want to interact with them, you want to appear friendly, so you smile more, and that changes your whole kind of energy, right? Um, but I also think I don't know if you noticed this, but I think it's a generational thing too. I think us being kind of Gen X, kind of a borderline millennial. I think younger generations don't do that as much. Like saying hi to people in the office. Have you noticed that? Like where younger generations just don't talk to people randomly, or like don't say hi to people. Like I find that with my kids, where if we're out somewhere and I run into someone that we kind of know, they just won't talk. I just like, hey, can you say hi? Like, like, do you find that as well?
Oh yeah, I took one of my kids out to, we went to the driving range,
Yeah.
and one of their buddies was there, and they're like, no, 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 like, we got to go to a bay away from them. Like, I don't want them to see them. I don't want them to know that I'm here. Like, I don't want to have an interaction with them. And I'm like, but why not? Like, you're friends with them. I've seen you hang out with them, but I don't know whether it's awkward because they're teenagers or what. Like, I can't pinpoint it, but social interactions, physical human social interactions, are almost viewed as either fear, or it's just viewed as like faux pas. Like, it's like
Hmm.
not socially acceptable to talk to another human in the real world.
Wow.
Like, either they don't know
That's
how to do it, or it's like socially not acceptable. It's awkward.
really, well,
That's what I see.
yeah, it's so strange, right? Or maybe it's because it's so awkward that it's become socially unacceptable. Maybe, I don't know.
Could be, could be, could be. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I really don't. Because there's definitely so many dynamics, right? I mean, there's always awkwardness at that age. I mean, middle school is never, never easy and all that stuff. So
Sure.
there's got to be multiple dimensions to it. But I don't know, man. I think it's just the like what you said earlier of how we became friends. A lot of it was hours physically together, just talking about random stuff. Like playing video games together, or going out to a bar and having a couple of drinks, and just talking and physically being around each other was so, like, that was what we did. I mean, there was no, like, just, let's just, exchange Snapchats with each other, or like, share our world through Instagram, and that's how I know who you are. Like,
Right.
it just doesn't exist. That just didn't exist when we did, and it's just such a different world. And I don't know, it's like, because the masses are engaged through interactions through the digital channel, it's like you're considered an outsider if you want to have a physical human interaction. It's like anti. It's awkward because that's not what everybody's doing. You're going against the grain, and I don't know. I don't know if that's a battle that will win. I mean, I struggle with even how much to impress upon the importance of that with my kids, because I think it's important. I think it'll help them in their future life as they become adults, because I still think physical interactions is going to be a big part of your life. So the earlier you start, I think the better it's going to be. But who the hell knows, man? Like, I don't know if the future is going to be even more extreme with isolation. It could be. I
Could
don't
be.
know.
Yeah, it's hard to say whether it's a trend in one direction or if it'll kind of or if it's a cycle, right? Where it's one way now, but it'll kind of cycle back the other way. I mean, I tend to think it's a trend in one direction, but I don't know. I would hate to think that that's the case because what kind of future are we looking at, right? Socially, where everything is digital and everything is, I don't know. I personally, I mean, the way we grew up, it seems dystopian, but
Yeah,
it seems like
right.
that's the way it's going. I don't know.
I mean, we've got a data point of what, 2020 was a pretty significant data point of accelerating further isolationism. In so many ways, right? Geopolitically, I mean, not to go there, but
Yeah,
also physically, right? Like, I mean, we lived months without any, human interaction outside of your bubble, outside of, I mean, I guess there were pockets of society that did not shut down as much as others. Hospital workers, clinicians, right? Like they
right.
were still out there working, right? Like they were, essential workers for dealing with the pandemic. So I think their worlds were still, of course, I mean, severely interrupted, but in terms of being able to work remotely, yeah, that's not a thing that doctors were doing. They weren't working remotely. They were in the office, like, caring for patients. And I do wonder, like, how all these other sectors, I mean, we embraced work from home and we executed that way. And, you had your bubble of close knit friends, and we did that for months on end. And then we came out of it and, we realized how much, at least we did, joy and happiness there is in being around our family, being around other humans. And I even felt like I spent and made a lot more effort to reconnect with my friends and, you know, intentionally spend time with them and arrange outings to hang out with our friends and not take it for granted as much because again it does bring so much joy and happiness. So i I don't know. I think I think it is very innate to humankind to have physical interactions, and I think we'll continue to want that and desire that. I guess the question is going to be, what's the volume and diversity of those interactions going to be over time? Is it going to be a small, intimate group that you just kind of hang out with? Or will we continue to have dozens and hundreds of people that we physically are able to interact with, either through academics or through professional careers or through, whatever we're doing to make a livelihood? And as we evolve as a species, I mean, we can look back and, the hunter gatherer days seem, whatever, eons ago, but we've evolved quite a bit from there in terms of our relationship with nature and, our cleanliness and all of that, right? Like it's progressed a lot. I mean, we're going to continue to evolve. We're going to continue to progress. How much we continue to progress towards isolationism, yeah, again, I don't know. I think it's going to be more. I think it's going to be more. I do tend to think what I tend to agree with you. It is moving in one direction, and I don't know that we cycle back to what it's been. At least not to the degree with which it's been. I think we'll
Right.
always continue to want human interactions. I just don't know that I don't know what the volume and the diversity will be.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And I think one argument for what you're saying that, that we're social beings, right? We're social animals is if you look at all the statistics around mental health and the pandemic, it's not good, right? Like mental
So true.
health, like it's really what's the word I'm looking for? It's very stark.
Epidemic.
Yeah, like it's just the numbers don't look good, and our mental health, like yeah, the fact that the mental health has gone way or whatever the term you want to use, but mental health issues have gone up in the pandemic and since, I think is a testament to the fact that we are social animals, right? We are social beings, and we do need that social interaction, that in person kind of, because we pick up social cues in person from facial expressions and body language and all this stuff that we communicate indirectly, and we're missing out on all of that.
I totally agree. The stimulation that we get, the endorphin rush that we get from those human interactions, we're replacing it with like the endorphin high we get from, oh yeah, that's a cool new TikTok video. Let me just click on that and watch it, and you get that little
Yeah,
dopamine hit, and you're like, oh yeah, that's good. Um, but it's I'll tell you this, man. I'm laughing because I'm thinking about my own habits and I'm thinking about myself. And when like a neighbor calls me up and it's like it's like, hey, it's like Friday night and he's like, hey, let's go grab a drink, like let's go hang out, like let's catch up. And I'm like, oh dude, I've had a long week. Like I just want to sit and watch Netflix and like just go to bed. And how many times I make that choice instead of like putting my shoes on, putting my jacket on, and saying, hey, this is important. I need to go do this. And all the different thoughts that go through my head about that decision are fascinating. And I don't know if I'm alone in this. So I'm going to share with you what they are. And I want to hear from you. Do you go through any of this stuff? So first thought is like same like what I shared. Like I'm tired. I love watching Netflix and like then just calling it a night and it's like enjoyable. Sit and hang out with my wife, cuddle my wife, spend some quality time with her, make sure she knows how much I appreciate her, like take care of my family life, tuck the kids in, make sure they know I appreciate them, like tell them a little bit, give them a good night kiss, all that stuff, right? Like just do my job as a father and a husband. And if I go and I socialize on a Friday night or a Saturday night, I'm shirking some of those responsibilities.
sure.
So that's one of the angles. The other angle is like literally I'm tired. Like I'm physically tired and I don't want to move. And I just want to stand still. Third is it's cold. I got to bundle up. Who's going to drive? We got to have a discussion. We got to have a debate. We got to make decisions. Like all that stuff goes through my head and I'm just like, nah, forget it. Like,
Yeah,
it's easier to just stand still.
sure.
On the flip side, I think of all these longevity studies that say the secret to longevity is having a strong support network, of having a sense of community, of having people around you. And that's what keeps you young. And then I start thinking, well, every time I go hang out with my friends, I do have a good time. Like, it is fun. We laugh, we joke, we I don't feel tired when I'm around them because same thing like we talked about, you put on a smile and you go out and you prove to yourself that you can do this. And then it's like, well, all right. Then the balancing act comes in of, well, have I done enough with my parental and husband responsibilities that like, all right, now the balance can shift back to myself socializing, going and having a good time. So I don't know if any of that made sense, man, but I
No,
know
yeah.
those are all things that I think about when it comes to fatherhood, husbandhood, and individuality of socializing and building your friends and your community.
Yeah, no, that all makes total sense. So there's a couple of different things I want to talk about though. You sparked a lot of things. So one is I'm reading this book right now called Good Inside by Dr. Becky Kennedy, and it's really great because it's about parenting, but it's also just about relationships. And one of the really important things I picked up from it is, our kids don't necessarily listen to what we tell them, but they do pick up on cues in terms of how we behave, right? So one of those cues is self-care. So if you, and I'm not saying this in like a dickish way, like if you don't take time for self-care, they pick up on that. If you're always stressed and tired and you're not taking care of yourself, and that affects your relationship with your kids and with your family, they pick up on that, and then they don't learn to do self-care on themselves, right? So I think it is important. Obviously there's a balancing act, like you said, where you're not going out every night getting drunk, right? You do want to spend time with the family, obviously, but if you do take a night here and there where you're taking care of yourself, you're going out, making a social connection with some friends, and taking care of what you need, your own needs, I think that sends an important message to your kids that, hey, you know what? It's okay to take time for yourself. It's not always about sacrificing your time for others. As important as that is, it's just as important to take care of yourself, right? So
No
I
question.
think that's important. So I don't think you should feel bad about that when you do go out. Um, the other thing is, when we were younger, we didn't think about being tired. Like, it was Friday night, you were going to go out, right? Like, you
Yeah,
could have
it
had,
wasn't even a
it
debate.
wasn't a debate. Like, you could have had the shittiest week imaginable where you had finals, or like you were just going out. So I
Yeah.
think that's an age thing, sure, right? But I think maybe it's a we didn't have the option of Netflix, right? Sure, there was TV on, but we had a handful of channels, maybe some cable. So it's not like, I don't know. Maybe we have that option now, so we're more, we tend to more, to take it more, maybe. Where we have Netflix, we have 50 different streaming services where we can go and watch anything we want. So we have that option, but we didn't really have that option back then. So, you know, even as an older adult back then, I think you just didn't have those options, so you tended to go out more socially. Does that right? Like I think that
Yeah, I think so.
that tracks. So yeah, I don't know, man. It's a maybe an age thing, but also maybe a it's so like our society is so different from even 20, 30 years ago that I think that's what's impacting how we behave and these choices that we make.
Yeah, and you go back to the point of what drives our choices that I for me and I think similar for you, it was like when we were studying in college, I studied so that I could feel good about going out and partying on Friday night and Saturday night.
Right.
And I feel like I'm trying to kind of tap into that a little bit now where it's like, all right, I'm at work, I work really hard, I'm diligent, I get my stuff done and like then the weekend comes and there's still sometimes obligations for work and we get it all done, but like yeah, if we're not showing our family that you earn the right to indulge in escapism and take care of yourself once you've done your responsibilities, then what's the point of doing all the responsibilities if you don't take care of yourself? Like, then it doesn't resonate. You don't get that like, you know, enjoyment from indulging in a pleasurable activity if you haven't earned the right to enjoy that pleasurable activity. And I feel like now, like, and this is what you were getting at too, if the pleasurable activities level of delivery is so high now that now the social interactions have to be even greater than that. And, I think television when we had it was okay, yeah, it was fun. Like we watched it, but like it was nowhere close to the enjoyment we got from a bunch of us going out to a club or going out to a bar and having a talk and having a drink and meeting people and seeing other people and being stimulated. Like at least for us, and that was just way more enjoyable. It didn't compete with the alternatives that we had, and I don't know what that level of enjoyment is for kids now. I don't know whether the rush and the dopamine hit of spending a night on TikTok and spending a night watching YouTube or whatever, watching Twitch even, or and then playing Xbox and PlayStation is greater than physical human interaction. It probably is. I mean, this is. I mean, I think it maybe we're again like this is just a sign of the times, but like there's been examples where my kids will have friends over, and because they're playing a network game, they'll like break up and say, "All right, you guys go back to your home so we can play like Fortnite together." And then they'll just socialize through the platform and their headphones and talk to each other as opposed to all being in one location, all watching one screen because they can't play the game physically together because of the way the game is set up. And in that situation, you're almost like, well, it's fun. We like playing this game, but we can't play this game and socialize physically together, so we separate. And now we're playing not physically together, digitally together, and getting some type of connection. But if that is what is normalized in their upbringing, that digital communication, digital engagement is enjoyable, and this is how we're going to define enjoyment moving forward, just might be the way we progress and evolve. Might become normal.
Yeah,
You
it's
disagree? I know you're thinking. I
no,
see you
no, no.
thinking. I see
I'm
the gears
thinking.
going.
No, I
I don't
don't.
know.
I
I hope
don't
I'm wrong,
disagree.
man. Challenge it. Give me some hope. Give me
I,
challenge it.
I don't know. I hope you're wrong too. But unfortunately, I don't see it. I don't see how we come back from that. But yeah, you're right. I mean, we we used to just go out and you know it was just it was just that normal, right? And I feel like it's
Yeah.
becoming this thing where it's not considered normal, and I don't know how we come back from that. I'll just say
Yeah.
one thing I've been trying to personally do, and maybe I'm just masochistic, but in this era of binging, I've been consciously trying to not binge because you know what? I don't know if you found this, but if you burn through a TV show in back to back to back to back, let's say you burn through 10 episodes of a season in one sitting or 2 3 days, I don't know, are you really absorbing that? Like, whereas if you go back to something like the Sopranos, which you could argue was the kind of the beginning of the golden age of TV because it was such a high quality show.
Oh yeah.
We would it would the weekly showings were events. Like, people would gather and watch the shows together or watch the episodes together and discuss them, and you'd be talking about them for the next week, and you would absorb them, and you'd internalize them and you're ready for the next one. And then if you were to watch the Sopranos back to back, let's say 10 episodes in a row, I don't know, are you getting that? And
No.
I think this kind of takes us back to our original point of people getting TikTok, or we're getting their news from TikTok. Is that what kind of depth are you getting from TikTok? I'd say zero depth, right? Like, you're getting
Yeah.
the
Yes.
the very highest superficial level of news, a headline and maybe a blurb, and that's basically it. And are you understanding anything about our world by getting that? I don't know. I don't think you are.
No. 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 You're not. Such. Excuse me. Such great points, man. All around the whole. I mean, binging has created even more isolationism because you're just gonna sit in your room and watch them all because you're like, oh my god, I have to know what happens, and they design the cliffhangers brilliantly. Like, the writers and the whole production is brilliant to get you to wait for that episode. And I mean, talk about. I mean, I know it's maybe overused, but like delayed gratification, we have taken everything that we lived with delayed gratification about. It's like technology has done everything they can to try to get rid of it.
Yeah.
And it's like this is definitely one example, right? Like, we had appointment television.
Right.
And the last show that I remember for appointment television like that was Game of Thrones.
Right.
I still remember that, right? Because it
Yep.
was such a popular show, but it was one of the last holdouts where they weren't releasing everything at once. They were still doing the weekly or bi-weekly or whatever. Like, every few weeks they were doing a release.
Yep.
And I remember thinking how it sucked. Like, I didn't want to wait. But it taught us that in this space, and we talked about this in Stolen Focus, like, the boredom, the space creates an analysis of the product, of the storyline, and you discuss that with your peers. And dude, that happened with Game of Thrones. Like, I remember coming into work and talking to my coworkers about the
Yeah.
last episode and analyzing it and what we liked and what we didn't like and all that stuff. And maybe it happens in a show that you binged, but it's not going to happen at the depth that it does at every single episode. You're going to talk more holistically about the whole show and maybe one specific episode after you've watched 10 of them. But like, that analysis in a deeper way is gone. The delayed gratification is gone. And the bias towards superficial dopamine hits continues.
Yeah. And not only
And,
that,
yeah.
sorry to interrupt, but not
No,
only
you're good.
not only that, but I think knowing that a show is going to be released all at once, I think the creation process changes, right? Like, as the creators of the show, as the people who are working on the show, you can't help but target your story for that. So yeah, there's less depth. I feel like how much are you going to remember after watching 10 hours of a show all at once? Like there's no room for breathe. I feel like art needs to breathe, right? And maybe I'm being pretentious by calling TV art, but I think it can be. Um,
Yeah.
but it needs room to breathe. It needs room for you to process it and think about it, make connections, and you know see what it means to you. And I don't think you could do that if you're binging necessarily. I don't know. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and I kind of want to jump back to the whole kind of superficiality of news, and we were talking about this right before we started recording, but thinking about that article I sent you made me think of a book I read earlier this year, which is a book called Crazy Horse and Custer, and it's an in-depth nonfiction book about the Native American leader Crazy Horse and General Custer, and it's a 600-page book or something like that in that range, and as I was reading it and as I finished it, I realized you know, I just spent 600 pages with these two characters, and the author does a phenomenal job of kind of drawing parallels between their lives, and you 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 kind of learn about them, and you feel like you know them so intimately, and that can only come from having read about them so intimately, so many details of their lives, and you could convert that into maybe a 1 hour podcast or a half an hour YouTube video, right? I'm sure maybe people have, but um, I don't think you gain that understanding of their lives, and and not only their lives, but I'll just say also I learned a lot about history, about U.S. history. Having read that book, you learn about the railroads and how the Western expansion happened, and there's so many kind of ancillary details of that time period from the late 19th century that you wouldn't learn otherwise. Like, yeah, you could maybe read a synopsis of the book and know what happens in their lives, but there's so much more to it than that, right? And I think we're losing out because I think people do more often than not turn to YouTube videos, turn to documentaries even, and you know I would argue, we talked a lot about stolen focus in one of our previous episodes, and there was that documentary, The Social Dilemma. But I don't think you're getting the same. You're not internalizing the lessons that are taught. You're not learning the same. I keep saying the word depth, but I think it's true. Like you're not getting the same
Hmm.
depth of knowledge and of understanding that you would from, say, reading a book or having something that you've studied. I think you're getting a lot more from that. I don't know. I just rambled, but I don't know if
I
that
agree.
made sense.
No, you're good. No, man. So as you were talking, I started thinking of the balance that has to occur. And I think if we accept and concede the level of involvement social media has in our world as, hey, like, cat's out of the bag, it's here. We've created this scenario, and now we have to live with it and decide what's acceptable, and how much we want to take our focus back as the consumers, which has, I think, been a big theme throughout, I think, every one of our episodes, like encouraging our audience, ourselves, to take our focus back and be more purposeful with how we spend our time. And I think that's the same message with everything that we're saying, that, okay, TikTok and that, it all has a place. Like, it's here, we accept it, it's a part of our society, it's
Right.
not going away. But it doesn't have to be all of it, right? We have to treat it with the respect that we do drugs, alcohol, tobacco, gambling. Like, treat it with respect. It is a dopamine hit. It does make us feel good. But it also, I think, comes at the expense of productivity, of critical thinking, of understanding nuance, of the beauty in human connection. And if we get too caught up in that world of TikTok and Facebook, and let's just call it all social media, we lose the beauty of the human world that exists around us. And reading a 600-page book, reading any book really that allows you to go into another world that the author has spent so much time in painstaking detail writing and explaining is a beautiful thing. That's a gift that that author is sharing with their audience that took them a lot of time. Not to say that TikTok videos don't take a lot of time, I'm sure they do, but their purpose is not the same as what a book does. And we need long form content. We need long form discussions so that we get into nuance and we can get into the beauty of what nuance gives us, and we continue to evolve thought, complexity to get to a more progressive society. And why do we need to get to a more progressive society? I think because if we don't, nature hates a vacuum, and vacuums get filled by good actors and bad actors. And if you have bad actors that are filling a vacuum with unethical, immoral, too selfish means and objectives, then you're not going to be able to thwart that, right? And again, some things don't start off as malicious. Social media did not start off as malicious. There
Right.
were good people wanting to do good things, wanting to build products. I mean, one was just a nerd that wanted to make friends in college, right? Like that's how it started.
Yeah.
And then it was like, I want to connect the world because it sounds like a noble mission to connect the world. I don't think it's malicious, but it had these unintended consequences. And so, okay, how do we balance that? Well, we have to have conversations like this. Like, this is what it's going to take. It's going to take time. It's going to take effort. It's going to take energy. But we have to take it back. And when I say take it back, it means get into nuance. That's what we mean by question everything. Like, it's not intended to be like conspiracy theories or any of that. It's intended to be purposeful with your time and be thoughtful with your time and make sure you're spending it in productive ways. And by productive ways, it means enriching your life as well as enriching other people's lives. Because at the end of the day, we're way more similar than we are different. And I don't think we get that level of appreciation in social media because it's so quick and so easy to find something that you can criticize or cancel or destroy another person about. It's easy. It's easy to do, and we fall for it and we do it, and we have to fight that urge, and we have to be a little bit more interested and appreciative of nuance. Wow,
Yeah.
I preached a little. So
No, no, no. All good, man. I completely agree with you. And, I think another thing I'll add on is maybe be mindful, right? I think I'd encourage everyone to just be mindful of these tendencies that we have because it is so hard to push back on it, right? I mean, it's innate in us to want to chase the dopamine hit, and it's so easy now to pull out your phone and just doom scroll. And I'd say
yeah,
just be mindful of it. And I think if you're mindful of it, then you can make the change if you want to, right? I mean, I would
yeah,
I would think most people would want to doom scroll less. So if you want to, then be mindful and be aware of what you are doing so that you can make that change. So you can catch yourself faster, maybe train yourself to catch yourself faster before you doom scroll for an hour, right? And maybe next time you'll catch yourself 55 minutes into it or maybe 45 minutes into it. Like I'm just saying progress is good. Any progress is good. So, just be mindful. And don't worry
yeah,
if you're being preachy. So, I want to mention that, we had this conversation after the Stolen Focus episode is that we both worried that we were being too preachy and too kind of too preachy basically. And we were going back and forth saying, hey, should we edit out some of that stuff? And I said, no, we should, let's just keep it all and let's just be honest and let's talk about it in another episode. And I think we should, let's address that. I think, we're expressing our true feelings and, our personal experiences. And I think this is how we feel. And we don't think, on the whole that social media is a great thing for society. And, if you don't agree with that, fine. I don't necessarily, I'm not here to please everyone. And I think, I'm okay with my opinions, and I think you are as well. So, I think we're going to continue to be honest, and but if you don't agree with us, feel free to reach out to us and tell us that, right? And we'll discuss it. We'll bring it up. If you want to come talk to us, and we'll have you as a guest and we can debate it.
Totally agree. No, it's great. It's a great call out. Great points. I think it's so interesting that when we, at least I personally, like, maybe when, as you and I were debating, and maybe I can say we, like, it takes courage to take a stand and to say things that are maybe going against the grain a bit, and um it comes across as preachy when you do take a stand, but it's like, I don't know, I don't know what else I would feel more passionate about than this, right?
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
it's a pretty, it's a pretty significant part of our society, of our life, and it's impacting our country. It's impacting our world when we're not realizing that we have more similar than different. And I feel like it's not interesting to look at our similarities. And that's why it's not on social media, because it's not interesting. And as you were talking about, like, being mindful and being thoughtful and more intentional with our actions, there's no better way that I've found to be more mindful and intentional about what I'm doing than talking with friends. They keep it real, because then I share a thought and you and I have a thought. I mean, just as we've done on this podcast, and it's like, is it preachy? Well, no, we should, like, dude, this is how we feel. Like, it's okay to feel this way, and it does cut against the grain, and maybe it is somewhat controversial, but, like, so what? That's what debate is. That's what talking is. It's to bring out other perspectives. And if you do disagree, like, that's the whole point of this. I remember when you and I even started the pod, it was like, dude, we just want to have interesting conversations. And if everybody agrees with everyone, that's not interesting. But it shouldn't be debates in superficiality. It should be debates in long form discussion. And that's what this pod is about, right? Like, that's what I think I wanted to do when we started this, and I think you and I agreed that that's what we wanted to do here. Like, it wasn't just something that's just going to be a sound bite and, like, hey, we move on. Like, that's just not what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was, as you were saying that, I was like, there may be some Gen Z people out there who are totally pissed at us because of what we're saying. But hey, you know what? If you feel that way, reach out. We'd love to have people on who disagree with us. And like, I think the only true way to know how you feel is, and we talked about this before, is to think about it deeply and to have these discussions. And I think through these discussions is how you figure out what you really think, right? And so
Yeah,
yeah, like, come on and we'll discuss it and we'll debate it, and let's see how you really feel and let's see how we really feel, and let's hash it out.
let's do it. Let's question everything.
Let's do it. All right, man. God, an hour just like flew by.
That was a fast one. That
Yeah,
was
that
a
was a
fast
fast
one.
one. That was a great discussion. And I think
Good deal.
I think that we wrapped it up nicely. I think we brought it back to what we started with, and yeah, let's. I think that's the pod.
That's the pod.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Good talk. Thank you. Later.
All right, that's the pod. Great discussion as always. We hope you enjoyed it, and if you want to join the conversation, email us at questioneverythingexcept@gmail.com. See you next time.